Okay, we're back here in Shaw's Garage. Thought I'd start a series of videos today on our 49 Ford F1 pickup project, and this is basically going to be an open wheel rat rod kind of contraption. Unless I change my mind as we go along. For those of you that tune in to see the odd rod updates, not got a whole lot going on right now. It's one reason I'm going to go ahead and start filming some of this as I get a chance to work on it. We hope to have our new race engine back in about 5 weeks maybe for the odd rod, and if it happens, then we'll probably do like 2 more events this season with Southeast Gassers just to kind of start getting that dialed in. So anyway, I hope hope you'll come back when we get to videoing that, or maybe you'll even be interested in this. But I just thought I'd go and go around this and kind of talk about what we've done and what the plan is. We picked this up about probably 6 weeks ago, and I've done a few things to it. The previous owner had kind of started in a different direction, and so we're kind of picking up, changing a few things that he did, and then some of the stuff he did was good, and we're able to go with it. So anyway, I think all we're going to use is the cab and bed and hood, and then do a custom grill of some sort and leave it open wheel. Our plan is to have 4 15 by 10 wheels with tires like this all the way around, and it's close to the stance right now. Let me get a side view of what we're going for. Shop's so small and chopped up, it's hard to get a good shot, but I've got the front coils pulled down where the control arms are almost level. They'll probably go a little bit further, so we might be another inch lower than this, but this is kind of what we're shooting for. Still working on the back of the bed. We've shortened it up, and we're going to shorten it probably about another 4 inches, but it's going to depend on where the rear end ends up laying. This thing's already got a custom chassis under it, and this front suspension is a 2001 Toyota Tacoma, and real pleased with it so far. I would have never thought of using one because I don't really scrounge the junkyards anymore, but it's basically a copy of a Mustang 2 if you look at it. A little heavier, which is good, but the biggest difference between it and the Mustang 2 is the steering racks in the back, which is no big deal, and the strut arms, I'm trying to think on the strut arms are in the front on the Mustang 2. So that's really the main difference, and of course the way you do the alignment on these is different, and it's actually better. This one will be aligned with shims in the upper control arm, and it's probably got some adjustments in the ball joints too. It's got a set of motor mounts in it for small block Chevrolet. Of course, any of you that know me know those are coming off for 2 reasons. 1, it's going to have a Ford in it, and 2, that's not where the engine's going to go. Some of this front frame horn will be cut off. We have slid the body back about 8 inches. I think you can see that bolt right there was a body mount, so we've slid it back, and we've also channeled it a little bit over the frame. The rest of the frame from where this front stub is at is built out of 2x3 heavy wall steel tubing, and it's gusseted real well. Previous owner, his welding was really good, so I'm real pleased with the chassis so far. I've already got a steering column in it and mocked up, but we're gonna have a lot of engine setback with the body slid forward. So I mean, my rough measurements show I'm either going to have the front of the oil pan will drop right behind the rack, or we'll have a rear sump oil pan and it'll lay barely on top of the rack, maybe up towards that cross member. But that's a lot of engine setback, and that's going to be great for handling. Obviously, we want to have this thing. It's going to handle great with this type suspension it's got and the amount of rubber that's on it. The weight will be very neutral, so it should be a lot of fun to drive. And moving on to the back, it already had the makings of a triangulated 4-link, and we're going to take all that out. that's just not really the direction I want to go. The rear end is an old Chevrolet truck rear end. It's junk. We obviously are going to put a 9-inch Ford in it. And that's another good thing too. This front suspension is, with it being Toyota, it's Ford bolt pattern. So we'll be able to match everything up 5 on 4.5, which is what most of our stuff is. So here in the back, I just finished building some trailing arms for it. And these are basically, based on a C10 Chevrolet truck trailing arm. And this is the kind of thing NASCAR used for a million years. And I really like this setup. I've got it under my 49 pickup, and I'm just real happy with it. So I decided I'd go with this. And I just built these out of it's 2-inch square tubing, and then the back has got a piece of 2.5-inch tubing slid over it, and it's heavy wall tubing. The back part is slid over it and welded, and it was old tubing, so it's still got to be cleaned up and everything before we paint it, but it's good metal. And cap the ends. And then it's got crushed tubes through there. So when you tighten everything down, it's not going to try to crush your tubing. And then you can see these perches are angled. So these go in triangulated. And then up front, I just used some Johnny joints, which are real popular for rock crawlers. And these sleeves come in to about right here, and basically it was just some solid round stock that I had a friend of mine mill 4 flats on, and then thread the inside for the 1-inch Johnny joint, and that'll tie to a cross member about midway in the truck. And that's one of our projects today, I think, is to go ahead and get that cross member roughed in and start laying some of this out. I'm going to go ahead and pull all this rear end out today, I think. I've got a 9-inch housing under an old Ford truck across the street that we're going to get and narrow for this. I've got some axles left over from the race car that are some really good Moser 31 spline. We upgraded to 35 a couple years ago, so need to use these axles for something. So I'm just going to narrow the housing to fit those axles, and then it's probably, with the amount of rubber I'm going to have on this, I'll probably end up having to do just a little bit, maybe like an inch tub or recess, not really a tub, but a recess over into the bedside. But that'll also help get the track width a little better with that much rubber, because the front suspension is fairly narrow. We got good clearance though with those tires and wheels. It turns lock to lock without coming close to anything. So that's going to work out well. So we're going to kind of build us a rear end to fit what we have. And then with this trailing arm set up, you can go a couple different ways. I've got a cross member already for a set of coilovers, which that's a good way to go. That's what I've got under my pickup. And they're adjustable and all that good stuff. They're also a little bit pricey. So depending on how the budget is, and I haven't really run all the numbers, but we may do just a set of separate coil springs with jack screws like they did on the Cup cars, and then have our shocks separate, and that gives you the same full adjustment. Ride's going to be just as good, if not better, and it's just a little more work. So I just kind of weigh the cost versus labor hours. And see, and it may be once I get it mocked up, I may look at a few things and go, yeah, we really don't have a good spot for springs, so we're just going to go ahead and go coilovers. But anyway, you have to have some type of a coil spring set up, and then you have to have a pannered bar. But there's plenty of room under here for all that, because there's really not going to be much of a bed. It'll just have probably like a bed cover and then some storage underneath, fuel cell, and so forth. And just the basics. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it to update the start of this project, or the start of the videos for this project. And so I'm going to go ahead and get to work, and I'll add some more as I make some progress. Okay, this is what I got done today. Doesn't look like a lot of progress, but spent pretty much most of the day building this front cross member. And this is how all this lays out. That front cross member welds in between the frame rails, and then your rear end housing drops in here, and that's basically your suspension. And you can do pretty much, I mean, this is really a neat, simple suspension. Great ride because the arms are long. You can throw all the horsepower to it you want to, not worry about axle wrap. It articulates well. And then with the either adjustable coilovers or coil spring jacks, it's very adjustable in the rear. So anyway, there was a lot to this cross member, especially when you're just kind of building it with what you've got in the shop. But it's extremely heavy, and I want it to be heavy and strong. These 2 points where those bolts are at basically propel the whole car forward when you're applying power. So all this needs to be pretty strong. Of course, we've got a drive shaft loop incorporated in with it, and I think it's going to fall at the right place to be, correct as far as, where the drive shaft loop needs to be. If it doesn't, we can extend the loop either way, depending on where this falls. But what's going to happen is the piece of channel is the right width to weld to the frame rail, and again, the frame rails are 3-inch tall. And then this gap right here where I've got a piece of the 2x3 tubing boxing all of this, I'll come in here and build some triangulated gussets and box this off once it's in the frame. And all of that can be done at some point when we take the body off, once all the suspension is tacked in and fitted and checked, and then we'll build gussets. So I think that'll be a really strong, clean looking cross member. And not sure I want quite that much loop hanging down because this thing's pretty low, but we'll see. We've got to see where the transmission and drive shaft ends up sitting and how much room we need. We can always clip some of the bottom of it off, or even flatten the bottom a little bit if we need that extra clearance, and I think we'll be fine on the top. I've got this will actually come up into the tunnel a little bit. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to end this video for now, and then we'll pick up with part 2 wherever I go next on the suspension. Probably going to get the housing out and start getting it cleaned up and mocked up and ready to fit into this and get it narrowed, because once I get all of this put in, we can go ahead and have a complete roller with the suspension like it's supposed to be. So anyway, thanks for watching.